And this is just how she came out with it. Your mum's admitted to murdering your dad.
The next thing we knew, the police come and took her away in a dressing gown, slippers. Wouldn't even let her get dressed.
They got us all up as a family and told us that obviously Dad had got cancer and it was terminal. Dad said, you know, and when the time, I just want to take my own life. And then Mum turned round and said, well, you know, if Dad's going to go, I'm going to go with him. You know, my dad, he was a minor, he was, you know, he was a strong, independent man, and you've got somebody turning around and saying, no, you're not allowed to do that. Well, why can't I do that? Yeah. So you can't have that conversation with him. You can't, because why? At the end of the day, that was his choice and that's what he wanted to do. Yeah. Who is anybody to turn around and say, no, you can't?
I was shocked at first and I wouldn't accept it. But when my mum said that she was going to go with him, I realised, well, they love each other that much. And I didn't want to see my dad in pain. I'd seen him enough as it was in the early stages. That was just with the cramps and everything. Yeah. And he'd still got his dignity then. And that was bad enough then. But when my mum decided that she wanted to go with him, we sat down as a family and we just agreed.
And I just said to her, Mum, you know, you haven't got to do this. There's a home for you at my house. You can come and live with me. And, you know, do you not want to see Ruth get married? Do you not want me to see me become a grandma? And she just held my hands and she just looked at me, just square in the eyes, and just said to me, I love you, Joy. I love you with all my heart, but I love your dad and I want to be with him. And I just knew. And then I just sat there and thought, how can I not give this woman who's given me absolutely everything in my life and loved me all of my life, how can I not give her my, you know, acceptance and just say, yeah, that's fine, you okay then? And I just looked at her and I held her hands and I'd got tears running down my face and I just said to her, okay, Mum, if that's what you want to do, then I'll give you my, you know, I'll give you my blessing.
So I ran into the house and my niece was there and my sister-in-law, Lynn, and she never said a word. She was just dazed. And I says, where's Dad? I says, he's in his room, he's asleep. So I went into the room and he was sitting in his chair with a blanket on him. And I tried to wake him and he was not waking. And my son said, Mum, and I turned around and looked and he got a packet of tablets in his hand and there was all empty capsules on the living room table. And that's when I realised that they'd both taken the overdose. So I ran into the ambulance, told them what had happened. They called for another ambulance and the other ambulance came, and at the time I found my husband Kevin and I said, you need to come down quickly. Your mum and dad have taken an overdose. There was myself, Kevin, Joy and Ruth all around the bed. The hospital nurses put the beds together and they were holding hands.
And like, you know, we were just saying to him, it's all right, Dad, you can go now. And I just said to him, I'm gonna take Mum with me, Dad. I'm gonna look after her. She's coming to live with me.
Mum started to speak about when they first met at the dance and going to meet him in Cannock on the bus and he wasn't there. So she got back on the bus and went home. And as she was telling this story, a tear fell down Dad's eye. And yeah, he was listening and then he just slipped away. And it was lovely.
And I said to Mum, if that's how you could have had it, is that what you would have wanted? And she went, yeah.
I can't explain what it was like. It was like relief and sadness at the same time. I was really happy when he died because he was in no more pain. But you can't explain that you've got the sadness as well. What the way my mum was treated, I was anger and upset. It just made it worse.
And we'd already been told the day before that everything was fine and the police weren't going to be involved. But I got to the hospital and met Joy, and she explained what had happened with these two nurses. Apparently they put words into Mum's mouth and called the police.
And then we got into the room, and then this nurse started to speak to me, and she just said, well, there's been a development. And I said, what do you mean there's been a development? And she said, well, your mum, and this is just how she came out with it, your mum's admitted to murdering your dad.
We hadn't got a clue what had gone on. Anyway, we were sitting round the table, getting my mum ready to watch it, and this nurse comes and says, don't touch anything, the police are coming, it's all a crime scene now.
And I heard it come over on the radio, literally, to arrest her. And I just went back, said then, and I said, you're going to arrest her? And he said, yeah. And I literally instantly turned around and said, for assisted suicide. He went, no, murder. And I was absolutely begging them. I was begging them, please, you can't take her. She's 79. She was in a nighty dressing gown and slippers. Please don't take her. And you could see in their eyes, they didn't want to take her, but they'd got to take her. And I literally was holding on to her so tight, and she was so brave. She just literally got my arms off her, and she just looked at me, and she just said, Joy, she said, we're just going to go and tell them the truth. She says, on what's happened. She said, I don't want you to worry, and I'm going to be okay.
The next thing we knew, the police come and took her away in a dressing gown, slippers, wouldn't even let her get dressed. Picked the bag up that we brought with the clothes in, and away they went. And the police was interviewing us, and the chief of police says, I'm going to make a president of your mum. Set a president or make a president. And I says, oh, so you've undrawn a quarter already? And he just said, shrugged his shoulders like this, and he says, it's the law of the land.
They say, don't you go into flight or fight mode? And I was determined she was not going to go to a deathbed as a murderer, because I knew that she hadn't murdered my dad. And not only that, that's my mum. She's the most kind-hearted, loving person that I've ever known. She's protected me all of my life. And all these things splashed about her and said about her, and, classed in that she's a murderer and everything. I mean, the people that where she lived had, got it round that she'd stabbed him to death in the bungalow, and there was blood everywhere. There was a bloodbath and everything, and it's like...
So we took her to Stafford every day to the court, and every day we didn't know whether she was going to be coming home or not. She dealt with it pretty well, really. I think she kind of just pretended it wasn't happening. And it was the day before the verdict, and we went to see the barristers, and they said, look, tomorrow you need to bring a bag of toiletries and some change of clothes. And that's when I think Mavis realised and thought she was going to jail. And she had, as we thought at the time, she was having a heart attack. It was a panic attack.
And Davina was sort of holding this hand, and I think Tracy was holding this hand, and we were just literally and then it was like, have you got the verdict? Yes, Mr. Foreman, all the rest of it. And then he just, murder. Not. And he literally stood up and he bellowed, because he knew my mum was deaf and she couldn't hear, and he bellowed it. And the judge had said to us, and he looked at us and he said, you have been absolutely remarkable throughout this case. He said, you've been very dignified, and don't let yourselves down now. I don't know what the verdict is. And he said, but whatever the verdict is, I don't want any shouting or uproar or anything else in this. But you've just been told that your mum has not been murdered. How do you not go, So we were like this, and then manslaughter, not guilty. And then it was just like, oh my God, we were just screaming and sort of all crying and hugging each other. And
I just broke into tears. Broke into tears. My sister ran out, fell down the stairs, nearly broke her neck, rushing to my mum. It was unbelievable. The The feeling is like as if the whole world has just been lifted off your shoulders.
I'm not, you're free, Mum, it's okay, it's over. She's like, it's over. And then she burst into tears, our Kev was in tears, Tracy was in tears. We went and hugged the barristers. And then the one thing that our barristers said that they've never, ever, ever seen done before was the prosecutors then called us all into a little side room and just, you know, wished us good luck and go away and live a happy life and, you know, well done.
The anger that I've got, I wrote to the DPS, the police, the NHS, the newspaper about them saying my mum was a murderer. Those are the people I wrote to. And not one of them have apologised. That's the anger that I've got.
Our law is so outdated and so barbaric, this is never going to stop. And I think the mood of the country at this moment in time, it's now the right time to sort of like, you know, for the public to really get behind it.
The law's got to change. It's got to change because if you help any member of your family in any way for them to die in a decent death, you've got the chance of being put in prison, and that's just not right. Yeah. That's just not right at all.